take a seat, please. We'll get started. After 10 o'clock, and June 15th, 2022. And I am the president of the 1972 Constitutional Convention Society. I remember we were the 4th convention in the state of Montana. There were 2 that failed. We didn't get statehood. The 3rd one, we became a state. And after the 3rd convention, the delegates decided that they would have a society and meet until there were no others, and they couldn't meet. And we have been doing the same thing. There are a few to meet, but they're almost all of us gone. And so at this time, I officially declare the society meeting open.
Good morning. My name is Gianforte, and I was one of the delegates to this convention. It's great to be back here. It feels like family always when the convention delegates get together. And so it's wonderful to be with all of you who most of us all consider to be family. So let us pause before our God to give thanks and to open this session with prayer. Let us pray. God of commandments and covenants, we gather this day to celebrate that creative instinct that you've implanted in the human mind that seeks order and resists chaos and evil. On this anniversary of our Montana Constitution, we're reminded of how fragile covenants and commandments are, that they are sometimes thrown down and broken in the heat of discourse. Today we offer our gratitude for the lives of people, ordinary people like Catherine Pemberton, Tori Johnson, Paul Harlow, Jack Ward, Louise Cross, Mark Etchart, Lucille Spear, Veronica Sullivan, Art Kamhout, each one of the delegates to the 1972 convention. And our gratitude for so many who did the groundwork that enabled it to happen. Each of us had our flaws. And yet in a remarkable way, you brought us together and overcame personal agendas so that a foundation for community could be forged. In these trying times, we appeal to that same spirit of concord, to lift us above party or prejudice to ensure the common good. Write your commandments on our hearts, O God, not just on stone or paper. Instill in us and in those who follow us the yearning for unity and the welcoming of diversity which seals our social contract. Remind us on this occasion of that original covenant which calls for care of neighbors, sensitivity to the marginalized, and responsibility for the planet itself. Free us to rejoice in our coming together at this gathering, to refresh friendships and renew our commitment to order. Grant us faith to trust in the triumph of good and in the awareness of purpose for which we were created, so that your kingdom, your power, your glory may be seen on earth. Amen.
My name is Jerry Lindorf. I was a delegate to the 72 convention, and I was just asked by the Sergeant-at-Arms to ask people to silence their telephones. They're apparently going off. I've been assigned the task of a land acknowledgement. Before we assembled here today, before this Capitol building was constructed, before the boundaries of Montana Territory were established, before Lewis and Clark ascended the Missouri, this land was occupied. People came across the Asia-Alaska land bridge thousands of years ago. As the centuries and generations passed, these first people populated the Americas. These first people stewarded the lands and waterways we now call Montana. As we gather today, the Montana Constitutional Society and the Montana Constitutional Convention Committee acknowledge these original inhabitants and their descendants. Since time immemorial, they have fished, hunted, gathered, and taken care of these lands and waters. The lands and waters easily endured their gentle presence. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land. Today, the majority of Montana's American Indian population come from 12 tribal nations: Assiniboine, Blackfeet, Chippewa, Cree, Crow, Gros Ventre, Kootenai, Little Shell, Chippewa, Northern Cheyenne, Pend Oreille, Salish, and Sioux. After the Lewis and Clark expedition, and as the years continued to pass, the migration of people to Montana grew. Trappers, fur traders, homesteaders, miners, and others continued to migrate here. In fact, they are still coming today, but with different occupations and from all directions. The human is an innovative creature. He discovers and invents and discovers. Products of these inventions allow the land to be cultivated and fertilized, and the water channeled, so to increase the production of food to such an extent that Montana farmers and ranchers now feed many of the world's people. But the size, power, and capability of other products of invention allow we, the people, to remove large portions of the surface of Mother Earth, or drill deeply into her, to mine, extract, and remove copper, silver, gold, oil, gas, coal, and other substances that have benefited us and still benefit us. However, some of these activities, the land and water, have not so easily endured. The damage they cause does not always self-repair. We now recognize it is our obligation to protect and preserve this land we call Montana. In doing so, we Montanans have chosen as our primary governing instrument a constitution that acknowledges a continuing duty to maintain and improve a clean and healthful environment, to protect the environmental life support system from degradation, and to prevent unreasonable depletion and degradation of natural resources. We have recognized that lands disturbed by the taking of our natural resources must be reclaimed. We Montanans imposed these duties upon ourselves 50 years ago by ratifying our Constitution. In doing so, we have tried to reflect honor upon the connectedness and respect for the land and water that the first Montanans carried forth hundreds of generations ago. How well we perform these duties will determine how well the land will continue to endure. Future generations will judge our performance.
Good morning, and welcome to the state capitol. It's good to have you in the People's House. For 120 years, the wheels of state government have turned here for the people of Montana. Today we celebrate not only our shared history, but also our shared optimism for the future. But first, it's important to reflect on and remember those who came before us. Standing on the shoulders of our nation's founding fathers and the authors of our state's 1889 Constitution, Montanans gathered here to pen a new state constitution 50 years ago. As the delegates gathered, it wasn't just a room filled with lawyers and politicians. Thankfully, it was a group of everyday citizens coming together to write a new chapter for Montana. They were farmers, ranchers, veterans, business owners, stay-at-home moms, engineers, spiritual leaders, and educators. Together, they brought forth a new state constitution at a critical time when our original constitution had become outdated. Recognizing that changes needed to be made, our new state constitution was born. The 1972 Constitution achieved a more effective, flexible, and adaptable form of government. It strengthened the executive, providing the governor increased oversight of the budget to help keep government spending in check. It required the state to balance its budget and live within its means, just like hardworking Montana families do, and in very stark contrast to the federal government. It also restructured countless independent elected boards and agencies into manageable executive departments. It removed limits on the legislature for substantive action, so legislators could better represent their constituents and deliver results for their communities. It adopted a statewide consistency in property taxation to provide greater fairness for Montana taxpayers. It shifted authority for redrawing congressional and legislative districts to an independent redistricting commission. Most notably, it secured the rights of citizens to participate in government at the local and state levels, and it enhanced government transparency. Here in Montana, we now have some of the strongest public participation laws in the country. That's something worth celebrating. Montanans' voices can be heard loud and clear, whether while state and local decisions are being made or in elections for all branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial. That's why I encourage all Montanans to continue exercising those rights. Get involved, be active, make your voices heard, just as the everyday Montanans who penned our state constitution intended. Beyond guaranteeing public participation in the new constitution, further empowered Montanans, allowing them to initiate amendments to the Constitution. As a result, Montanans have had a profound impact on making our government more effective and more responsible. In 1992, a citizen initiative placed term limits on leaders. Before that, we can look back fondly to the very first citizen-driven constitutional initiative. Adopted in 1974, Montanans placed the annual legislative session, replaced it with a biennial one. It's safe to say Montanans got that one right, because as Mark Twain said, no man's life, liberty, or wallet is safe while Congress is in session. But the 1972 Constitution did more than just empower Montanans. It sought to actively limit the government. The single subject rule prevents the legislature from bundling measures together into an unruly federal-style omnibus bill. Not only does this help eliminate wasteful spending, but it also ensures Montanans know what their leaders are voting on and holds legislators accountable. And despite changes, our current Constitution's fundamental ideals remain unchanged. The 1972 Constitution is rooted in our Founding Fathers' conceptions of freedoms and liberties. Together, we'll work to build a stronger, more prosperous state, leaving it better than we found it for our kids and our grandkids. As we all know, the story of Montana is long from over. Each time I meet with young Montanans, I'm reminded of how bright our state future is. There will be more trailblazers, more triumphs, and more successes. There will also be more challenges and trials, but we'll weather them as we know how, with neighbors helping neighbors. And together, we'll continue improving our outstanding quality of life, enhancing equality of opportunity for all Montanans, and securing the blessings of liberty for this and future generations. Let me just say, for the quiet beauty of our state, the grandeur of our mountains, the vastness of our rolling plains, we're so fortunate to call Montana home. May God bless each one of you, and may God bless our great state of Montana.
I failed to give you a proper welcome, but all of you, delegates, all of you families that are here on behalf of the delegates, and all of you that are guests, welcome. I have the duty of acknowledging a greeting from former Governor Ted Schwenden. Ted, in 1961, which was my first legislative session, I sat on this side with the leaders. I wasn't a leader, but they were mentoring me. Governor Schwenden sat over here, and he was the minority leader. And I learned preparation from him because I thought on an issue that I knew something about it, and I got up and spoke in favor of it, and Ted just ate me alive. And I appreciated that lesson because I've used it many times in the practice of law and other things that I've undertaken. So in the day's paper, there is a little thing from Governor Schwenden. He says, "My fellow Montanans, I am sorry that the trip from Phoenix to Helena is a little too much for those soon to be 97-year-old bones. But I joined you in spirit. In 1969, when Gina and I moved to Helena from our Tully Creek farm in Roosevelt County, strong winds of change were sweeping Montana. I came at the beckoning of newly elected Governor Forrest Anderson to become Montana's State Land Commissioner. I had been to the Capitol as a young legislator a decade early, and in the 1959 legislature could well have been the 1933 legislature. The long-standing coalition of copper, utility, and cowboy was still a powerful presence. On the seventh floor of the Placer Hotel, the Anaconda Company had a birthday party nearly every evening, where thirsty legislators could enjoy a drink, or more likely drinks, in a hospitable entertainment, and build a first-class club sandwich while they, mostly male, chatted with their corporate hosts, mostly male. If there was any evidence during that 1959 legislature that the old coalition was about to start crumbling, I certainly couldn't discern it. But a decade later, rapid change was occurring, a change in which the thousands of Montana servicemen and women who had returned home from World War II brought with them a new perspective. Whether it was the combat experience of the new cultures we discovered, Montanans left the war different than they entered it. And when the GI Bill opened college doors to Montana, or America's 15 million returning veterans, both the country and Montana were going to change. The GI Bill set the stage for the creation of an educated citizenry, which Thomas Jefferson had told us years earlier was crucial for the American experiment in democracy to succeed. The sons and daughters of towns like Wolf Point, Webo, and Polson embraced their college education and wartime experience and saw Montana in a vastly different way than did their parents or the stodgy yet solid leaders of their communities. And much of what these newly enlightened Montanans saw of their state government, then state government, they didn't like. Under Montana's 1889 Constitution, the governor is head of the executive branch, which was very weak, with 182 boards, bureaus, and commissions, diluted whatever power the governor might have. The legislature was shrouded in secrecy. The press had been controlled by the Anaconda Copper Company until they sold all their newspapers to the Lee Enterprises in 1959. By 1996, the new press and enterprising news reporters were shining light into the dark corners of Montana government. Montana's copper collar was being loosened, and Montanans wanted it totally removed. Forrest Anderson's executive reorganization followed almost immediately by the 1972 Constitutional Convention, and the Constitution that emerged changed Montana government forever. 100 citizens gathered together as Montanans, not partisans, to craft our foundational document, hailed by many across America as the nation's best state constitution. I knew so many of those who gathered as delegates and was so enthused to see that the two women out of the 1956 legislators in 1971 had blossomed into 19 women out of 100 delegates in the 1972 Convention. And their positive impact was felt in every article of the Constitution. On June 15, 16, in the state capitol and streamed live on the Montana Public Affairs Network, Montanans have the chance to hear much about Montana's 1972 Constitution. Hopefully, the eyes of all Montanans can be opened even more to this wonderful document crafted over 54 days, 50 years ago in 1972. Enjoy and learn from these proceedings. Enjoy the celebration, and enjoy your future days in Montana under the strong, people-oriented provisions of Montana 1972 Constitution. It serves us all well. Again, I wish I could be in Montana to celebrate, and I wish you all well. Thank you so much, and thank you, Governor Schwindel. I want to make a few remarks, not many, but a few. And I'm going to start it with the word preparation. The preparation for this convention in 1972 was begun in 1967. And for 5 years, it dominated much of what went on in this state politically. Those people that put the commissions in place and raised the money to hold the convention and to pay the commissions and raised the wonderful staff that we met with as we came in as elected delegates in 1971. It's preparation that does those things. It's preparation. You take a look behind me, one of the greatest paintings I've ever seen, and the largest. Charlie Russell's famous Lewis and Clark meeting with the Indians. Now, that just didn't happen. Those things, and the art out in the vestibule, they start from preparation. How big is the painting going to be? Who is going to be the artist? What are we going to put into the painting? On and on. Preparation is big. And we enjoyed that. Some of us didn't appreciate it very much. We came onto the scene, it was all done. Reports were printed and given to each committee. Everything was ready. We were lucky because we were able to pop in here and then do our job. And a couple other things. The things that I think that haven't really been broadcast too much or written about, and much has been written about that Constitution. both at the law school, law reviews, and other articles. 3 things, just one that I think helped make it successful, was the fact that as the Rules Committee chairman, I was involved in the drafting of the rules. And one of the things I found that made Hawaii the last successful state to adopt a constitution and become statehood was citizen requests. You know, in the legislature, you had to get a legislator to sponsor something for you. And I didn't think that that was right, because if you couldn't find somebody, you had a good idea and you couldn't find somebody to do it for you, it didn't come forward. But we had some 1,500 citizen proposals. So we were open. People knew that we were here for them. All of the meetings, committee meetings and all of the meetings were open to the public and to anybody who wanted to come in and hear about it. That had not happened before, as you heard from Governor Schwinden's remarks. And we had to give notice of any meeting that we had, mandatory. And those things did not appear in the other rules of the legislature. And I have the 1963 rules that were given to me and to every legislator as they came in. And that was the basis, of course, of the rules that were drawn and adopted by the convention. And we started not knowing each other very well. A few of us knew some people. Lawyer to lawyer, I knew a few. And we got to meet each other. And we were independent. I mean, this is a group of people you can't imagine could gather. They were elected in a partisan style, and there were more Democrats than there were Republicans, and there were a few independents. Over 100 people who formed and did something together, and that was significant in my opinion. We came, and this is something my father taught me years ago, long before he died, my second year in law school. If you take something on, leave it better than you found it. And that's what we did. That's exactly what we did. We, you know, I think all of us, as of those famous words of Teddy Roosevelt, you know, the credit actually belongs to those who are actually in the arena, the great who strive valiantly, who know the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spread themselves in a worthy cause, who at the best know the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, and fail while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. And we did that. We lost some in committees. Our committee work was outstanding. That's where most of the work was done. And then we had the committee of the whole and did it. And I like to say this: a clock of life is wound but once, and no one has the power to tell just when the hands will stop, at late or early hour. And now is the only time you own. So live, love, and toil with a will. Place no faith in time, for the hands may soon be still. And 90 of us have already found that. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ed Smith. I was the reading clerk for the convention. I was a young college student, and it was a great privilege to have worked with these distinguished group of Montanans. I have the honor to call the roll, and I would ask individuals if they want to make some brief remarks to please do so, but please keep them brief because we're trying to keep on schedule. Another point I'd like to make is if you do choose to speak, please remove the microphone from its holder and pull it towards you. pull it towards you and then remove it, excuse me. Yeah. Okay, we will start. Magnus Osheim Antelope. John H. Anderson, Alder. Oscar Anderson, Sydney. Harold Arbanas, Great Falls. And we do have someone that's going to speak.
Okay. Pick anyone you like. I've got it on here.
My name is,
Yeah, you're on.
my name is Great Falls, Montana. I have Harold Arbanas as the principal of my school in Great Falls. Central Catholic High School. So he was a great leader. He was born in Latino. He was a skater, a dance skater. Arbanas, and many of you as delegates remember him. Did anybody hear that at all? Okay.
Franklin Arness Libby. Cedar B. Aronow Shelby. William H. Bill Arts, Great Falls. Thomas Ask Roundup. Betty Babcock Helena. Lloyd Barnard.
I don't know if you can hear me, but Betty Babcock's granddaughter, Phoebe Williams, was supposed to be here to stand for her. My name is Cheryl Hutchinson, and I worked in this building for 30 years, and Betty and I started working together during the convention and then on Constitution Park downtown, and the last thing we worked together on was the restoration of this building. And I just scooted forward so that Betty Babcock would be represented today.
Lloyd Barnard Seiko. Grace C. Bates, Manhattan.
Grace passed away on Christmas Eve 2012, and I don't think she ever missed a reunion before that. And she was always glad that she'd gone through this process. I have one story about her that when she was getting older, she's having trouble sleeping, so she'd count sheep and cows and horses. But one night she decided to count the delegates, so she started out up here with Osheim and went across and back and forth and came up with 99. And then she counted from the back to the front. And then she counted from each side and came up with 99. Finally, about 5 in the morning, she realized she hadn't counted herself.
Don E. Belcher Roundup. Ben E. Berg Jr., Bozeman. E. M. Bertelson Conrad. Chet Blaylock Laurel. Virginia H. Blinn, Great Falls. Jean M. Bowman, Billings. Jeffrey L. Brazier, Helena. Bruce M. Brown, Miles City. Daphne Bugby, Missoula.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bruce Bugby, and Daphne would have given anything to be here today to join with you all and remember all your good work. As an architect, I think she would have described the work of this group as one to design our home. That is the place we live, that we act in day to day and over our lifetimes, and the place we make for those who follow us. The importance of that is that as much as our home defines who we are, it does not remove that responsibility that each one of us have to live our lives in such a manner that we welcome others, that we take responsibility for who we are and the place that we live. In that way, we are both experiential. We have hope that is both experiential and aspirational. Experiential in that we each day endeavor to be our best selves in the context of how we live and the place we live, and aspirational in how we hope for the best future afforded by all of us in that collective responsibility. Thank you.
William A. Burkhardt, Helena. Marjorie Kane, Libby. Bob Campbell, Missoula.
I'm Bob's daughter. He would have wanted to be here so much. As many of you know, the Constitutional Convention and the Society meant the world to Dad. He passed away just a couple months ago on April 5th. Over the past several months, he asked if I'd be able to come today because my brother and I had been able to come to a few reunions. I told him, well, I don't know, I'll try, Dad. I'll really try to make it. I never imagined that I would be here representing him, but it's such an honor to do so. The Constitutional Convention was such a big part of his identity, and his role was important not only in the work that he did here, but in public advocacy over the last 50 years, talking to students from elementary school through law school and public education programs. There's an award also with the help of Maynann Ellingson that's been created at the University of Montana Law School to provide an award to the law student publishing the best article on the Constitution. So thank you, Maynann, for helping to make that happen. Another positive development that's happened, the city of Missoula has proclaimed this week to be Maynann Ellingson and Bob Campbell Week, recognizing their work. And in addition, Friday has been proclaimed Bob Campbell Day. That's also the day of his memorial service, which will be at Garden City Funeral Home, 2 p.m. It also will be streamed for those who cannot make it in person. So our family just expresses deep thanks to all of you who continue this work in promoting public education about the Constitution and to protect the rights that are guaranteed in the Constitution for this and future generations.
Jerome J. Kate Billings.
Hi, my name is Shannon Kate Schwain, and I'm here representing my father, Jerome. I'm sure our dads are laughing up in heaven because in true Montana style, we met in a grocery store about a month ago, not knowing who each other are, and just sat down next to each other and realized who our dads were. And our dads apparently, I've had a couple people tell us this was kind of a little trouble area over here. They were always up to things, the Kate and Campbell corner over here. So, but I have great memories of my dad speaking of his time in the Con, and he was very proud of the work that he did here, and took great pride in the state of Montana. And that was one thing, as I think about my dad, growing up, always wanted us to appreciate Montana. And he took us to places we didn't want to go, like Ekalaka and Kalispell and every corner of Montana on weekends. And he thought it important to drive the back roads and see every little bit of Montana that we could see. And I realize now how important those moments were, and I treasure all of that. He was big on the right for every Montanan to have a healthy and environmentally safe Montana and beautiful Montana. And as I love to spend time in the mountains and the country of Montana and bring my family into the beauty of the state, I realized how important that was, and to fight for that. I ended up naming all 3 of my daughters after Montana towns, and I think that's something my dad would have really liked. I think it is so important for this next generation to pay attention to the Constitution, and in light of things that have happened as of late on the national level, I think people at a younger age are beginning to start to recognize the importance of the rights. And I was so impressed as I watched the PBS documentary of how this group of people worked together, and to have 56 or 54 days or whatever it was to work together to do this and to accomplish what they did, coming from all different areas and all different positions in Montana and jobs in Montana. And it was just, that stood out the most to me as I watched the documentary. So huge thank you to all of the delegates and the families that are here today. And I'm just so impressed of what you guys were able to accomplish. And I think it has made all Montanans proud. Thank you very much.
Richard J. Rick Champeau, Kalispell. Lyman W. Schote, Miles City. Max Conover, Broadview. Louise C. Cross, Glendive.
I'm here with my family to represent Louise. There are 2 little stories I'd like to tell you about her experiences. One, which is fairly famous. Charles Lindbergh was being given a tour of the convention writing process, and the woman showing him around brought him to the meeting for the article on natural resources. My mother answered the door and said, "We don't have time." we're busy. And the other one is that she was at a political debate in eastern Montana, and she asked, between a man and a woman, she asked the man a question, and he said, "Well, that's very technical and goes back to the writing of the Constitution." And her reply was, "Well, I helped write that."
Wade J. DeHood, Anaconda.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff DeHood. I am the son of Wade DeHood. He passed away earlier this year. He was from Anaconda and couldn't be more proud to be from Anaconda. I have here his 2 grandkids that they affectionately called him Pa Wade. So I have Wade DeHood.
I'm Wade DeHood, and Wade DeHood was my grandpa.
I'm Brett DeHood, and Wade DeHood was my grandfather.
Their grandpa, Pa Wade, and my dad were so proud to be, he was so proud to be a part of this convention and be a part of everything that had to do with the Montana Constitution. He was so big on individual rights and brought that to the convention. And again, he was just, all of his life, he couldn't be more proud than to be a part of all of this. And he would like nothing more than to be here today. But with his passing, he couldn't. So it's an honor for us to be here in his honor. Thank you.
Carl M. Davis Dillon, Douglas Delaney Grass Range, Morris Driscoll Butte.
I'm Geraldine Driscoll. I'm one of Morris Driscoll's 10 children. My father was the son of Irish immigrants who came to Butte to mine. He put himself through college and was a proud school teacher and deeply involved in the development of VOTECs in Montana that have now become the community colleges. My father was very proud of his constitutional convention work, very proud of the Constitution in 1972. He would be more proud of it today as a workable, modern document that is protecting our rights and protecting the quality of life in Montana.
Dave Drum Billings, Dorothy Eck Bozeman, Marion S. Erdman, Great Falls, Leslie Jo Eskelson, Malta, Mark Etchart, Glasgow.
Yes, I'm Jeannie Etchart, grand niece of Mark from here in Helena. Montana and its history are very important to our family, and I'm just honored that he was a part of this important process, and glad to be here with so many wonderful Montanans.
James R. Felt Billings, Donald R. Foster, Lewistown.
Good morning. My name is Brian Foster. I'm the son of Donald R. Foster of Lewistown, Montana, the beekeeper. He was part of, and most proud, and spoke often of the Preamble Committee and the Bill of Rights Committee. And this was the beginning of his service in public life, showing up here in 1972, that he continued on in the Senate side and then on to DC with Pat Williams. And he spoke often and most about the work in the Constitutional Convention and what you all did here, and had a big influence on how our family approached life, and very proud to be able to represent him here today, and thankful for all you've done. So, thank you.
Noel D. Furlong Kalispell, James C. Garlington Missoula, Leo Graybill Jr., Great Falls.
Good morning. I'm Rafe Graybill, the grandson of Leo and Turner Graybill. My father is also here, and Ben will be here tonight. I want to thank everyone for putting this event together. I know Leo would have been incredibly proud. One of my last memories of Leo was at the 25th anniversary in 1997, before he passed away. Leo was a person of intense principle, and he was someone that was really, really proud of the ability of these delegates to come together and to put politics aside, put aside who's up, who's down, and produce a document that still works for us today, that works really well. You've built an amazing community, and we as the families are so grateful for you bringing us together again. It's a real treat for people like me to get to practice law with Emily Cross, who is another granddaughter of a delegate, with the Hoods, with McEwens. So I really want to thank everyone for bringing this together, and we're so proud to be here.
E.S. Irv Geisler, Fort Benton. Otto Habedank, Sydney. R.S. Bob Hansen, Polson. Rod Hansen Fairfield. Jean Harbaugh Poplar.
Great to be here today. We live in New Mexico now, but we keep an eye on what's going on in Montana. And just a couple of years ago, in January of 2020, Maynan and our friend, is it Bill? Great. Grable were able to visit the Supreme Court of the United States to hear a case that had to do with the Montana State Constitution. It had to do with the education article, which was the committee that I served on. So we keep an eye on what's going on in Montana, and I think that the impact of our convention has a lot of ripples. It has carried a long way. One of the things that I was able to do where we live in New Mexico is to speak to our United States Senator about our alphabetical seating, and I encouraged him to do the same with the U.S. Senate. And of course, you know how much influence I had of that. But anyway, he did. He went to the State of the Union address and sat across the aisle and encouraged a couple of his colleagues to do the same. What might it do to our federal process if we really got to know each other, found out that we all had grandkids, that we had all suffered some terrible losses in our life? What would it do to the tone of our conversation and our politics in this nation if we did that? I'm glad to be here today, and so glad to see so many of you who are family and friends of those of us who had the privilege of participating in this great event. Thank you.
Paul K. Harlow, Thompson Falls. George Harper, Helena.
I'm George Russell Harper, or Rusty, speaking for my father, Reverend George Harper. There are a whole passel of Harpers here: Pat, Hal and Janet, Steve, Nancy, Renee, Fitz, and sure more that will tell me about it at the end. Reverend George Harper was one of the 6 delegates who were elected as independents. They campaigned, or they lobbied very hard to say, let's be seated in alphabetical order. And the result was exactly what Delegate Jean Harbaugh said, that all 100 thought of themselves as independents working for the state rather than for a party. Now, during the conversations, sometimes they would get very tense. And George used his wonderful sense of humor to loosen people up and to say, yes, these are serious issues, but let's debate them amicably. After the convention, he traveled all around Montana and campaigned with all 99 of the delegates for passage. And doing that, he passed out his own bumper stickers. Now, in World War II, there was a saying, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. George's bumper sticker said, praise the Lord and pass the Constitution.
Daniel W. Harrington Butte.
Hello, my name is Bryce Harrington. My grandfather's Dan Harrington. He was from Butte, Montana, and died in 2015. He used many words, but the 4 that spoke to him the most were Butte, Irish, Democrat, and Catholic. Someone who always fought for the little man and protected those through his rigorous work with unions providing the people of the state of Montana with safe working conditions, benefits, and proper pay. A man who strived to provide affordable education and proper taxation through cooperation on both aisles. I remember that before he died, he spent the previous 2 days at a celebration for this exact event. Nothing made him prouder to work across the aisle with his many fellow colleagues to build one of the best state's constitution in our country. As a warning to those in the next session for the state of Montana, think twice before trying to repeal such a spectacular piece of work. So without further ado, I'm honored to be here for my grandfather, Dan Harrington.
George B. Helliker, Missoula. David L. Holland, Butte. Arnold V. Jacobson, Whitefish.
My name is Susan Duncan.
Are you on? Is she on?
Yes. My name is Susan Duncan, and I'm honored to be here to represent the family of Arnold Jacobson. I know that being elected and serving on the Constitutional Convention was one of his greatest accomplishments in his 86 years. He was a kind, fair man, believed that everyone was entitled to justice under the law, and I think those attributes come through in the Constitution. I'm just very honored and very proud of everything that everyone has done here, and I certainly hope that we can maintain this Constitution. He believed that no one was a stranger and that everyone should work together, and I think the Constitution shows that that's what occurred. And so thank you, everyone, for being here and all that everyone's done.
George H. James, Libby. Tori B. Johnson, Busby.
Hi, I'm Tori Johnson Gleich. I am the granddaughter of Tori Bradford Johnson. He's here, and his son Phil is here, his daughter-in-law Colleen, his daughter Jolly, his granddaughter Ashley, his granddaughter Gwen, and a great-great-grandson Jake. He will be honored by about 30 of his family members over the next 2 days. Known as the singing cowboy of the Montana Constitution Convention, he was from Busby, Kirby, Montana, and the Sparrow Ranch. He sat on the legislative committee with May Nan during the convention. I have been told that when he spoke in this room, he did so with humor and integrity. He always represented the farmers and ranchers of Montana. And one of the last great cowboys of Montana, he passed at the young age of 86 on December 26th, 2002. Thank you all for coming today.
Thomas F. Joyce, Butte. A.W. Kamhut, Forsyth. Robert Lee Kelleher, Billings.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bob Kelleher, Jr. My father was a character. In my opinion, he was way ahead of his time. Everything he proposed in the Constitution did not get in, but some of these things like gay rights are recognized now. It's a different world from 50 years ago. He was very much what we call today pro-life. He tried to get the Constitution to forbid abortion, which, just for the record, for what it's worth, I'm pro-choice myself. But ironically, the right to privacy, of course, in our Constitution, together with the Armstrong decision, pretty much guarantees that if Roe versus Wade is overturned, will be a sanctuary for pro-choice people in Montana. But he was very, very proud of his time at the Con-Con. My brother David, I wanted to say, was, I think it was a page here, and he's in Kalispell. He's in really poor health right now, so he couldn't be here. He should be sitting here instead of me. I was in West Berlin during all this and missed out on it. But if you would indulge me, I wanted to say a couple words about Bob Campbell. Bob and my father were really close buddies, and when I took the bar exam, Bob picked me up at the airport, and that was the last time I sat in this chamber, actually, in 1984. And my father and I visited him at his law office, which my memory serves, it was here in Helena at that time. And we went to his office, and Bob came out wearing a full Richard Nixon over the head mask, and he was holding his hands up in the V saying, "I am not a crook, I am not a crook." And his office was directly across the way from the FBI field office here, and he had a plastic marijuana plant on his windowsill and a bunch of rolled up what looked like marijuana joints. And he said, "They have probable cause to execute a search warrant. I really wish they would." Anyway, Bob, I'm really sorry that Bob can't be here. I love the guy. He's a great guy, a wonderful guy. My father and he, I pray, have found each other in heaven. Thank you.
John H. Luthold, Molt. Jerome T. Lindorf, Helena.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Lindorf. I'm one of the surviving 10. I was just a pup at the time of the convention, and I'd like to acknowledge that I probably learned more during that period of my life than at any other time. And I would say to the family members of the other delegates that your family member delegate was an exceptional person, and it was really an honor to have worked with them. Thank you very much.
Peter Pete Lorello, Anaconda. Charles H. Mahoney, Clancy. Rachel K. Mansfield, Geyser.
Hi, my name is Colleen Mansfield, the youngest daughter of Rachel Mansfield. She was proud to be a Montanan. She was probably most proud to have worked on the Constitution, and she continued it until she passed in November of '92. She just dearly loved it, and this I brought with me my daughter Rachel, or Meredith Rachel, we call her, and her daughter Remy Rachel. And I know my mom would be proud that we're here representing her. She continued on up until the time she died. If she could get 1 to 100 people to gather, she would talk about the Constitution and tell them how good a Constitution and explain in layman's terms. And she traveled all over the counties that she represented. My husband, Alan Perriam, is also here with me, and I know she would be proud, almost as proud as having her youngest daughter, Colleen. Thank you.
Fred J. Martin, Livingston.
I'm Fred J. Martin, Jr., and I am here representing my father, who passed away, and I am also here representing my late sister, her husband, and their 4 children and 7 grandchildren, my son and daughter-in-law, and my daughter. And my dad was a very proud member of the Constitutional Convention, and I have on my wall then a picture of him signing the Constitution, which he regarded as a great accomplishment. He was very proud of the Constitutional Convention and all. And I want to tell you about one thing we have in his memory, which is of interest to you, I hope. When Dad died, we created the Fred J. Martin Community Scholarship at the University of Montana. And as COVID took place and as things happened, most of the newspapers of Montana, certainly all but the, pulled their correspondence out of Helena. And the affairs of the state and the capital were virtually uncovered. And so we set up a scholarship through the journalism department at the University of Montana, where my dad had been a graduate. And they dispatched some of their prime students to Helena during the legislative session to cover the legislature and to cover the state capitol and make the reports available to those newspapers that would otherwise be unable to cover the affairs. And that is the Fred J. Martin Community Scholarship Fund. And my dad was a wonderful person, a great influence, and a solid publisher. Worked in many different roles in journalism in Montana. And unfortunately, after heading the War Savings Bond drive for Montana, joined the Marine Corps when he was too old, got a double hernia, and passed away too soon. But fortunately, it motivated me to take care of my health, and so, and to do things, run marathons, ride bicycles, do all such things, as well as do my work and all. And so I, fortunately, thanks to my dad and my mother, who was a registered nurse, I was just able to celebrate my 90th birthday. So I hope to run another marathon in honor of the Constitution. Take care.
Joseph H. McCarville, Anaconda. Russell C. McDonough, Glendive. Mike Mick McEwen, Anaconda.
Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here today with the delegates, their families, and the families of the delegates that we have lost. I'm Michael J. McEwen, Jr., and I'm here today with my mother, Carol. In 1971, upon graduating from law school, my dad, Mick McEwen, ran for a seat as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention and was elected to represent the counties of Deer Lodge, Granite, Powell, and Missoula. My dad passed in April of 2020. The last convention he attended was the 45th anniversary in 2017, which he proudly brought us along for. It was also the last time he sat in this seat. This seat held great importance to my dad, as he rightfully knew his time in this seat was a watershed moment in Montana history. He thought of all the things in his career, the most important things happened here when he was 25. It was here, along with 99 other Montanans, that our great Constitution was crafted. It was here, along with 100 proud Montanans, they ensured Montana's commitment to equality in all public matters, to transparency, openness, and public participation in government, to individual human dignity, to clean and healthful environment, to fiscal accountability, and to the prevention of abuses of the public by individuals, organizations, and corporations. I conclude today by sharing my dad's personal thoughts that his membership in your distinguished club became more enriching and generated more pride as the years passed. His association with each of the delegates was something he always deeply cherished. As my dad wrote in a letter to the delegates years ago, "You are all very important to me and indispensable to having revolutionized our government. No state can match the document we produced during those cold winter months of 1972. Our contribution to our great state has not gone unnoticed. Their contributions to our great state have not gone unnoticed. Their contribution to the formation of our Constitution is unparalleled, and we all must bore up to protect their legacy to our great state. The 1972 Constitution, with the freedoms and protections it provides to all Montanans, will stand the test of time, no matter the attacks that bear upon it." Thank you.
J. Mason Melvin Bozeman.
I'm Paul Melvin. I'm Mason Melvin's son. My dad was two-term sheriff of Valley County, and then he went in the FBI. And you can imagine during that time he developed a great interest in how we organize our courts and how we select our judges. And so he was very interested in doing that while he was here. He was very proud of the document that he helped produce, and the rest of you should be too. It is a masterpiece and work, and thank you very much for doing it.
Lyle R. Monroe, Great Falls.
I am present and glad to be here. I was elected at age 23 and got my oath taken to become a delegate when I was 24. So at that young age, I still had hair, and I quit my job at Opportunities Incorporated because I thought maybe it wouldn't be, it was just a nonprofit corporation, you know how they deal with people. My job was to help young youth during the summer times get jobs that they could earn some money, learn how to manage it, and that they could get some experience as their first job that they ever had. And so it worked out pretty good, and I enjoyed that a lot. But I quit that job, and I went out and I painted houses, and I mowed lawns, and I camped, and so I was a very lucky young man, and I got to be a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. So my oldest son might be here today, and he is, I carried him around in my Jerry carrier on my back as I campaigned with my cowboy hat on. So I sent him a picture of that the other day. So him and his family are up in the section there, and I'm glad they're here, knowing that their dad did some pretty good work. So I was glad to be a member of the Constitutional Convention, served on the Bill of Rights Committee, and it's really an outstanding document. So thanks, Great Falls, Montana, and thanks for the delegates for working with a young man like me and helping me learn about what constitutions are all about and how they should function and help the people and the land and the cultures that came before us.
Marshall Murray, Kalispell.
Hey, I passed.
Okay. Robert B. Bob Noble, Great Falls.
Hey, yeah, Bob was a man of few words and very proud to be here. Thank you very much.
Richard Nutting, Silesia. Katie Payne, Missoula. Catherine Pemberton, Broadus. Donald Rebo, Great Falls.
Rebolonki. I am so pleased to be here to represent my personal hero, Don Rebel. I'm with his grandson today, Jeff, who doesn't like any light shone upon him, but he was the best friend of his grandpa too. Dad always told me that we have a moral obligation to give back to others, and he walked the talk. He was an avid volunteer. He served in World War II. And when he had the opportunity to serve as a delegate and serve his state on the Constitutional Convention, he jumped at the challenge. Now, he was a business person. He had no political background, was not an attorney. That's what made this Constitution so great, is you had a cross-section of true Montanans who were here writing this Constitution and representing every person in the state. Dad was a natural athlete. He was a bowling champion. I don't think any of you ever knew that. He was a state bowling champion, state team bowling champion, state doubles handball champion, avid golfer. He was a Renaissance man, and doing all of this while taking care of my mother, who became permanently disabled in 1960, and 3 young kids. truly my hero in every sense of the word. Dad seldom, if ever, missed a Constitutional Convention reunion. Something tells me he's not missing this one either. So on behalf of my family, President Murray, delegates, guests, family, for the roll call, I will say Donald Riebel is here.
Arlene Reichert, Great Falls.
Thank you. I'm actually present, believe it or not. You know, it's... I believe I am the oldest delegate at 96, and it's such a blessing to be here, but it's rather overwhelming. I mean, I close my eyes and I can see my 99 fellow delegates all around. It seems like yesterday. 50 years have gone by, and here we were. You know, we're represented in all walks of life. The one thing we had in common is our love of the state of Montana. And what we did when we wrote that document is we just kept thinking about Montana. We forgot about our party affiliations. We forgot about everything else. The important thing was Montana and its future. And so throughout the convention, first of all, we didn't think we could do it in 60 days. We did it in 54 days and gave money back to the state. You know, that's unheard of, but it was because of the structure, and we'll talk about that later. But what I have to say now is that love of Montana just permeated the whole convention. And we kept thinking of this and future generations. And I'm thinking of that today. Although there are only 10 of the delegates left, all the future generations, all you young people, from all over. And my own family is well represented. My daughter was a page. Come here, Claire. She was actually here with me. She was here, my younger son and my mother. I mean, those were wonderful days. And I've got a lot of my other family members here, just like many of you. They range in age from 1 year old, a great-grandson. I hate to say it, I've got a 57-year-old grandson. I became a grandmother at 39, so I'm just so happy to have so many relatives and families here. Bless you all, and thank you all for coming. And let's just protect our Constitution so it's here for future generations, many future generations down the road. Bless you and thank you.
Maynan Robinson, Missoula.
Present. I'm still stinging from some of the notes I received from Leo Graybill from the chair. A little yellow note said, "You can wrap it up now, Mrs. Robinson."
Richard B. Rader, Bozeman.
Just a second.
Oh, sorry. Over here. Okay.
No. Which one are we on?
Wait to say his name. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It should be on.
Try it again. All right. Here we go. Got it. You didn't say his name yet. Oh, I thought he did.
Is, are you representing Richard Rader?
No.
No, okay. George W. Rollins, Billings.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Here you go.
George was the proud father of 8 daughters. 2 of us are here today. My sister, Meredith Rollins, and my name is Carol Rollins Levine. The others are here in spirit, as is our very large family. Dad was a history and political science professor at Montana State University Billings for many years, and he was absolutely thrilled to run for and be elected to be part of rewriting the Constitution, one of the greatest experiences of his life. I remember going door to door and passing out flyers for him before the election in Billings. And one little story about Dad. Dad had a great sense of humor. He found Helena incredibly, incredibly confusing to drive in. And he said that every night when he got finished with a convention, they had moved the motel. So it was one of the honors of his life to be part of the Constitutional Convention, and he would be here if he could. Thank you.
Miles Romney, Hamilton. Sterling Rigg, Kalispell. Donald Scanlon, Billings. What's that?
Hello, I'm Betsy Scanlon. I'm honored, along with my brother Steve, to represent my father, Donald Scanlon. After a lifetime of a ministry career in the ministry, my father went back to school. He was honored to become a delegate to this convention because of the votes and the campaigning of the adult education students he had on the south side of Billings at Garfield School. These were people that were predominantly poor, Native American, some Hispanics. He taught them to read to the 4th grade level, and he taught them civics, government, and the importance of a vote. And he won a position to this convention, this honorable convention, because of the votes and the campaigning of those students that believed in the government of our state and believed in our state. So I am honored that we are all beneficiaries of all those delegates that had this in their hearts. And my father represented the poorest of them, the ones that couldn't read, the ones that didn't think they had a vote. And so I'm here to congratulate you all, thank you all, and I'm very proud to be part of this. My brother has some comments as well.
Thank you. You know, if a guy had 2 lawyers' children, they'd both get to speak, so that's what we get to do. I also am very proud to have been the son of a delegate. As Delegate Monroe here right in front of me reminded me this morning, his passions were Native American issues and the Bill of Rights, and thank you for doing that. I campaigned for my dad, I remember, with some of his students, and got him elected, and that was the start of my political career, which I'll talk about in a second. But he had many conversations with me before, during, and after the convention, and I think it led to my political career. I actually ended up being elected to 2 terms in the House of Representatives in the state of Idaho, and I am currently the Attorney General candidate for the state of Idaho. So he's left a legacy there, both here and in Montana and in my state of Idaho. I brought a couple of souvenirs today with me, and this one I'm very proud of. It hangs proudly in my house. It is a Charlie Russell painting, a copy of the one right behind the speaker's desk. And I'm very proud of this. It hangs with my other Charlie Russell paintings. I feel very close to my Montana roots. So I want to thank you, Mr. President, delegates, delegate families, for allowing us to be here and be participating in this wonderful, momentous, and historic occasion. Thank you.
John M. Schultz, Billings.
Mr. President, members of the body, my name is Mary Shihimo, and with your permission, I'm going to do this from my seat. 2 1/2 score and 1/3 of a year ago, I sat up there a 21-year-old getting ready to cast her first vote, and watched my mother's brother sit in this seat and help the state he loved reframe its government. His name was John Mikhail Jack Schultz. I am his niece, and I think his godchild. Jack served on the Judiciary Committee of the Constitutional Convention, but he is perhaps best known as the chair of the Style and Drafting Committee. The delegates could not have chosen a better man for that job. The grandson of immigrants who left a homeland whose government would not allow the Irish to go to school, his family took pride in the ability to read, write, and put commas in the right place. Jack especially had a way with words. He used it to do good. He practiced law in Billings and for Montana's American Indians, and did good for the indigent and the indigenous. Jack served in the legislature in the 1950s and ran unsuccessfully for the Supreme Court, largely because he would not accept contributions from lawyers. In spite of that loss, he sought election as a delegate to the 1972 Constitutional Convention. He won. Jack, along with K. Ross Toole and another man, began writing about the copper collar of the Anaconda Company and the deficiencies of the previous Constitution in the 1950s in an underground newspaper called the Montana Opinion. Of all the good things in a life full of good things, Jack was especially proud of the words he helped write that gave Montana citizens the keys to their own government at last. It was good work, well done. I am proud to represent the Schultz family in the seat of an uncle I not only adored, but admired. He is not here to answer the role today, but his words, your words, our words, are here for him, just as he knew they would be. Thank you.
Henry L. Siderius, Kalispell. Clark E. Simon Billings. Carmen Scary Chester.
Hello, I am Lisa Scary, youngest daughter of Carmen Scary. And I'm a little nervous, and I think I'm channeling my 6-year-old self when I would sit. A couple times when Lynn was not here, Dad would let me sit under the chair, and I was told to be quiet. And so speaking today, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't be. To say that the con was important to my family is an understatement. My father was a rancher from Chester and was proud to serve in his time here. And I think one of the unfortunate things is he was so worried about the Constitution passing and didn't live to see it actually happen. My mother wanted to carry on that legacy and stepped in and was very active with the Con family. I remember as a child going to all the annual reunions, and it's a fond family memory. This is a progressive, beautiful piece of legislation, but I think it was happening because there's beautiful people who did it. Throughout my childhood, many of you wrapped your arms around my family and gave us love and warmth and comfort when we needed it. And a side story, sitting in front of me is Katie Payne. Katie passed several years after the Constitution passed, and my mother, a widow, reached out to Tom Payne, who was Katie's widow, and they became friends, and they became married. And so Tom served as my stepfather from the age of 10 on. So saying that this con hasn't had a profound impact on our family, like I said, is an understatement. So to the delegates that are here and all the families, these were amazing, beautiful people. And I just wish we had more of them in the world. Thank you.
M. Lynn Sparks Butte.
Surprise, I do have a voice. I just want to say how happy I am to be back in Montana and back in this wonderful hall with my fellow delegates and the delegates' family. This has always been a special place and a special time of my life, and I consider everyone here a family, which is the way we operated during those 54 days. So again, it's been an honor, and thank you so much.
Lucille Spear.
Sally Spear, Lucille's niece. And Lucille was the oldest delegate, and I'm older than Lucille was. So I'm thinking, what is age? I mean, what was 73 then? When I think of Lucille, I think of a woman who was a very strong role model for women today. She argued with Joe McElwain when he was the CEO of Montana Power about the importance of public utilities. She was a delegate to the 1968 Democratic Convention when there was all that rancorous rioting early on before rioting became more commonplace, shall we say. She was Max Baucus's first campaign chairman, and she campaigned really hard to see that he got elected. But I think her strongest accomplishment was being a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. And the gift she gave to our families and the families of people in Montana is insurmountable. I have great respect for Lucille, and I think she did a wonderful job of teaching women how they could accomplish something in their lives. Thank you.
R.J. Studer Billings. Veronica Sullivan Butte. William H. Swanberg, Great Falls. John H. Toole, Missoula.
I'm Howard Toole, John Toole's son. Those of you who knew John Toole probably knew something of his obsessive commitment to being involved in public service projects in Missoula from the time that he returned from the war in 1945 until the Con. He was working on projects of one kind or another, mainly beautification projects for the city and political projects for statewide candidates. But it was in the end of the 60s that he began to talk about the Con. He was very, very excited about the prospect of running for the Con, being a delegate and coming here. And although he did a lot of public service activities afterwards, the Con was absolutely the pinnacle of his public service career. And he loved it, and he got very involved in raising the funds and going around the state. And it's a great pleasure to me to hear about all the others who did the same thing. It wasn't just a few people who put this Constitution into law. This election that was contested and difficult was supported by all of the delegates, and all of the folks that are here today should remember that. He went on to serve on the city council in Missoula and do other things, culminating in service as mayor of the city. And it was a inspiring life that he lived, but it was this place and this time, this Constitutional Convention, that was most important to him. But I want to end by mentioning some people from that time that he used to talk about. One of them was Wade DeHood, whose service was remarkable in putting together the Bill of Rights that's so important to our Constitution and has had such a role in our courts. Also, Jim Garlington, the senior partner of a law firm and a lifelong friend of my father, and a wonderful, wonderful man whose service in the Constitutional Convention added to the cohesiveness that was so important to getting the Constitution passed. But the person that he spoke about the most, with the greatest admiration, was a person that we all admire here, and she's here today, Maynann Ellingson, then Maynann Robinson, whose work as a 20-something was just remarkable. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very proud to be here on behalf of John Toole. Thank you.
Edith Van Buskirk Haver.
Edith Van Buskirk was one of 4 delegates elected to represent District 14, Hill, Choteau, Liberty, and Judith Basin counties in the Golden Triangle of North Central and Central Montana. She was proud to serve as a delegate and was proud to have been a part of Montana's history. In her lifetime, this history-making event. She died in 1991. I'm here with my husband, Roger Barber, my sister, Jean, and her husband, Scott, and my little sister, Edie Van Buskirk, who dutifully went door to door campaigning as an 8-year-old in all 4 counties of District 14 with her mother. We're all honored to be here to help celebrate this event.
Robert Vermillion Shelby. Roger Wagner Nashua. Jack. Oh, just hold on.
Okay, there we go.
Go ahead. Are you?
Oh, you done? Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Okay. Is it for Roger Wagner?
That he just
Well,
spoke.
okay, there you are. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lori Ward Brown. My dad was Jack K. Ward. He was a veterinarian from Hamilton, and he was very proud to be a delegate. And I remember coming over to visit and sitting up in the gallery and watching you guys all do your jobs. It was fantastic. And I still enjoy talking to several of you. And just a quick anecdote, George Harper married my daughter. So they are all very close. So thank you.
And again, that was Jack K. Ward from Hamilton. Margaret S. Warden, Great Falls. Archie Wilson, Isham. Robert F. Woodmansee, Great Falls.
But not least is my husband, Bob Woodmansee from Great Falls. He was an educator and served on the Education Committee in the Con-Con, of which he was very proud of everything that happened here. Our youngest son was a newborn at the time of the Constitutional Convention in '72. He is now 50, lives in Helena, has given us 3 beautiful granddaughters. So the future generations of this Constitution continues to uphold all that we cherish in our beautiful state. Thank you.
And that concludes the roll call.
In keeping with the Constitution, which in many ways honors the native Montanans, we have a little entertainment here for Michael Jetty and Shane Doyle.
Wahamitaki Ayuha Chante Waste Napet Chuzapado. Hello, my relatives. I greet all of you with a heartfelt handshake. My name is Mike Jetty, a member of the Spirit Lake Dakota Nation and a Turtle Mountain Anishinaabe descendant. And I'm honored to be here today. I was invited by May Nan to come offer up an honor song. And so myself and Shane Doyle will do that. And we're both educators. And so we always say if it wasn't for you folks who put this clause in the Constitution that the state recognizes the distinct and unique cultural heritage of American Indians and is committed in its educational goals to the preservation of their cultural integrity. That is such powerful language. No other state has that. And so that is so cool. So let's give these delegates a huge round of applause, man. That's awesome. And so I'll let Shane say a few words, but just thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have a job because I worked to implement that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Shodaje, my name's Shane Doyle, and come from the Crow Nation. What a great honor to be here with all of you wonderful people. I love this state, love our Constitution, and you know, I was born in 1972, so we have something in common, the Constitution and I. And you know, one of my great regrets is I never had the chance to thank Dorothy Eck in person. And you know, I just have so much gratitude for what she did and everyone here back in 1972. And just a very heartfelt honor song I want to provide with my brother here, Mike Jetty.
Hey,
Thank you for being here for the roll call. We'll recess until 1:15. In the meantime, head downstairs to the rotunda where there's box lunches, and you'll have a chance to hear former Governor Brian Schweitzer. Thank you.